That is why they call me the Great Vampire Killer.
What if the greatest vampire hunter of the 80s wasn't a hero, but a terrified child actor running from his past? And what if every Peter Vincent movie you saw was actually a lie covering up real monsters? Tonight we dig into the true story the films never showed you. Because Peter Vincent wasn't born a fearless vampire killer. He was born Herbert McCoulihy, a kid thrown into the spotlight, fed to Hollywood, and later hunted by real creatures hiding in the dark. And the deeper you go into his history, the more you realize Peter Vincent didn't just act in horror movies, he lived them. And some of them followed him long after the credits roll. So let's trace his full life, from child actor to washed-up TV host to real supernatural hunter trying to survive the monsters that kept coming back. Peter Vincent began as a shy kid with a name nobody could pronounce, Herbert McCoulihy. At just 8 years old, he was pushed into show business. His breakout role? A disturbing little thriller called Murder in the Family, where he played a child killer. Imagine that. Your first job in life is pretending to murder people. That kind of thing sticks to you. And it stuck to Herbert. He had one brother who later joined a secret branch of the government. His brother would go on to uncover things that weren't meant for human eyes. And Herbert would one day run right into them. But for now, Herbert was just a kid actor trying to survive Hollywood. By his early 20s, Herbert's acting career hit the same wall most child stars hit. Cute kid becomes awkward adult. Producers stop calling. His name fades out. But then he auditioned for a small vampire movie called Fingers of Fear. And the studio made one move that changed his life forever. They renamed him Peter, after Peter Cushing, Vincent, after Vincent Price. A name that sounded like it belonged on old horror posters. And they didn't just cast him as a vampire killer. They sold him to the world as if he actually was one. That lie worked. Fingers of Fear hit big. And for the next 25 years, Peter Vincent became a legend of B-movie horror. Blood Castle, Jaws of the Vampire, Creatures from Carpathia, Vampire Virgins, and at least 20 more titles that played on late-night TV and drive-ins nobody remembers anymore. He became a face people knew, but never fully respected. He wasn't Vincent Price. He wasn't Christopher Lee. He was the cheap version, but he made it work, until horror changed. The 1970s hit horror like a hammer. Slasher movies took over. The old gothic vampire stories were dead, at least to the studios. The roles stopped. The calls stopped. And Peter Vincent couldn't get arrested, let alone hired. By the 80s, he was broke. Not struggling broke, like selling his own props just to eat. Broke. This is where most stories end. But Peter wasn't done yet. He came up with a plan. If Hollywood didn't want him, he'd make his own stage. He bought the rights to show his old movies, found cheap TV stations in tiny towns, and started hosting a late-night creature feature called Fright Night, where he introduced his own films like he was some king of the undead world. His show would air in places like Podunk for 6 months. Then he'd move on to Pigeon Forge, then somewhere else, like a traveling vampire salesman. It was sad, but it kept him alive. And then came the night that changed everything. When Peter took his show to Iowa, he expected another dead-end gig. Instead, he met Charley Brewster, a teenager claiming his neighbor was a vampire. Peter laughed. Of course he laughed. He'd spent his entire life pretending to be a vampire killer. He knew the tricks, the makeup, the Hollywood illusions. Real vampires didn't exist. Until Jerry Dandridge walked into the room. Jerry wasn't a fan. He wasn't a critic. He was a centuries-old predator sizing up his next meal. And for the first time, Peter's entire persona cracked. He realized his whole career was built on a lie. But the monster in front of him wasn't pretending. Everyone remembers this part from the movie, because surviving Jerry wasn't the end. It was step one. After the first movie, Peter Vincent and Charley become actual monster hunters. Not part-time, not accidental, full-time. And the threats they face go way beyond Jerry. They face Regine Dandridge, Jerry's sister, a sadistic vampire who wanted revenge for her brother's death. She didn't just try to kill Peter, she tried to break him. Mind games, psychological torture, and in the comics, it leaves deep scars on him. Then came the Spider Boy, a twisted half-human creature. Then the brain bats, flying parasites that fed on thoughts. Then the squid men, eldritch monsters pulled out of nightmares, and the worst of them all, the Legion of the Endless Night, a secret organization that believed vampires were the future rulers of Earth. They didn't just fight Peter and Charley. They resurrected Jerry Dandridge. And with Jerry back from the dead, Peter Vincent realized something terrifying. You can kill a monster, but some monsters don't stay dead. Peter spent his entire life fighting to be seen. A child actor, a washed-up hero, a forgotten host. But the supernatural world saw him clearly. It knew his name. It hunted him. It followed him from town to town. The challenge he faced wasn't killing vampires. It was surviving his own fear. In the comics, Peter becomes braver, but also more broken. He tries returning to Hollywood. Nobody cares. He tries to reboot his show. Nobody watches. The only place he ever mattered was in the shadows, standing between humans and creatures that wanted to feed on them. That became his life. Not fame, not applause, purpose. By the end of all his battles, something strange happens. Peter stops playing the role. The cape, the props, the ego. They were masks. But the real man was someone who still showed up even when he was terrified. Someone who hunted monsters even when the world laughed at him. Someone who kept fighting. Because if he didn't, no one else would. The movies showed you a joke, a washed-up actor. Peter Vincent became the thing he pretended to be, a real vampire killer. Peter Vincent's life wasn't about fame, it was about fear, and what he did with that fear. A child actor shaped by horror, a forgotten host haunted by his own lies. And finally, a man who found meaning in the one place nobody expected, killing monsters that were very, very real. His movies made him a character. His battles made him a legend. Watch the next video to go deeper into the Fright Night universe.